Hey everyone, Pastor Andrew here with another midweek message based on the Gospel of Luke. This past Sunday, we finished off chapter 16, one of the harder chapters of this Gospel, I believe. And it focuses on two different parables that Jesus gave, two different parables about rich men. And the second parable that we focused on this past week actually told a story of a rich man who ignored the needs of his neighbor, found himself in Hades, and from there begged for help and begged that Father Abraham, Prophet Abraham, would send someone to tell all of his living relatives and warn them that torment awaited if they did not right their wrongs, if they did not correct their sin, if they did not listen to God and start caring for their neighbor in the ways that he had already commanded them. Behind me, I've got a picture here of Grand Teton National Park, and some of you might know that I got to live there for a while right after my undergrad degree. And so I lived in the Tetons about a decade ago for 8 months, and while I was there, I got to see a lot of bison. And in watching them, one of the things that just amazed me is how two males would actually fight off with one another, and they would go head to head, and at full speed, these 2-ton animals would just run as fast as they could at each other, and then their heads would collide, and you could hear the thud standing from hundreds of feet away. You could hear the thud of their heads colliding with one another. The stubbornness that it must have taken for those two to just continually bash their heads against one another over and over again. And sometimes I feel like we feel that way in our relationship with God. We feel stuck, we feel frustrated, we feel like He can't hear us, and we'll be pointing the finger at Him. We'll be the ones on the offense, attacking God, saying, "What is your problem? Why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you hearing me?" When in reality, what this text in Luke challenged us about this week is that we need to be the ones to listen, because God has spoken to us. He's already made His word and His commands and His desire for our life known. And so in this text, as we saw the rich man who wound up in Hades, was begging for help for those who were living. It ends in chapter 16 with Abraham saying back to the rich man, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead." In other words, they already have everything they need to be able to hear from God. They need to simply stop, to quit butting heads with Him, to quit bashing against Him, and to listen to what He has already made clear to us, that we are to love Him with our full hearts, and we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. So church, I'd encourage you this week, take a moment, pause, assess your life. Are you listening to God's call on your life? And are you listening to His commands to love our neighbor as ourselves? Let's go and do that. Let's go and be the church. God bless you this week. We'll see you Sunday.